Joshua. Now, we are blessed to have Reverend Kelly Isola here from Worldwide Ministries, and she will be delivering a message today, Life in the Fasting Lane. Welcome, Kelly.
So, two little things. One, I'm not from Unity Worldwide Ministries. I'm from me. I work for me. I'm self-employed. I am a Unity minister, but and I'm certainly a minister, a credentialed leader under the umbrella of Unity Worldwide Ministries. But I am, if you're going to say where am I from, I'm from me. Right? Yeah. And the other thing is, and my apologies if this offends anyone, but I'm wondering if you could take that picture down, because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about fasting, living in the fasting lane, and I'm wanting us to move beyond the idea of breaking chains. That fasting is not, we tend to think of fasting, and I'm going to explain my living in the fasting lane in a minute, but that really it's not, the breaking of chains still has some energy of like ugh around it, and that's not what I want to talk about. If you've met me, I don't really want to talk about ugh. Hold on one second. This is one of those mornings that if it could go wrong, it did. I didn't realize there was going to be so much rain and that it would slow me down so much. And I didn't know that my coffee cup would fall everywhere in the car, spilling on everything. I didn't know it was going to be one of those mornings where I change my clothes 4 times because I don't like what I'm wearing. I don't like what it looks like. Another one of those, it just pick something, right? Just pick something. You ever have one of the, driving in the fast lane, like I'm trying to move too fast. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's 7:30, I got plenty of time. Yeah, and then it just sort of chips away. It's just one of those mornings. But it actually works perfectly with what I'm talking about this morning. So when you hear the fasting lane, or you hear, the word fasting, what comes to mind for you? Healing? Not eating? The ugh. Yeah, ugh, right? Yes. Clarity? Yeah? Heartless? Okay. Anything else? I think the biggie one was not eating. And it just sounds like, right? Ugh, yeah, that's a spiritual word. Sometimes referred to as shadow, but it's ugh, right? The things that are just a little more challenging. But I titled it Living in the Fasting Lane because we are in the month of Ramadan right now. And for our Muslim brothers and sisters, it's a month. It's the 9th month in the Islamic calendar. And so it moves around, kind of like, how Easter kind of moves around a little bit. Well, the month of Ramadan moves around the whole year. And it's actually easier for them during the winter months because the day is shorter. Right, so there's less time of going without the food and water. But because we're in the month of Ramadan, and when I was asked to speak today, I knew that that we would be in it because I'm active with the Muslim community in Kansas City. And in particularly many of the Turkish Muslim families that are immigrants. We have a very large, in Kansas City, we have a large Turkish Muslim population. Actually, we have a large Muslim population, but we have many families that have come from Turkey over the years. And so in the last few years, I've gotten to be close with them. I've gotten to be friends. And because I don't have any family, some of them have decided it was necessary to adopt me, which is fine because they cook for you, right? They cook for me. They invite me over. They have little children that want to play with me, which just is awful to have to play with little children. I know, right? Yeah. What a horror to have to be silly. I know, it stretches me. And this week, I found out about a week and a half ago that the house that I'm in is going to be sold, so I have to move. And I just, it takes one text to my friend Aisha, and she says, my husband and I will be over Thursday, and we're going to help you pack the house. I know, right? Yeah. It's almost as good as playing with little children. And you know what? I did want to ask though, because I knew they were fasting, which means their strength and the energy during the day is a whole lot less than mine because I'm not fasting. But in being in relationship with the Muslim community, and particularly getting to be close with some families, Ramadan has. While I'm not a Muslim, I've lived in Middle Eastern countries while growing up a couple times, so I'm not unfamiliar to the practice. But it's really taken on a new meaning for me in terms of a spiritual practice and why you might engage in that. Now, for Muslims, Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and it's 30 days, and you fast, no water, no food during sun up to sundown. And however, if you're pregnant, if you're elderly, if you're ill, if you're breastfeeding, if there are physical things going on that just would not make sense from a health perspective, you don't. So it's not one of these hard and fast things, but the focus is really, it's not about deprivation. And we tend to think of fasting as, how many of you grew up Catholic and you saw Lent coming and you're like, I'm going to have to give something up. I did. Okay, I'm going to give up lying and cheating and stealing, which I hardly ever did, right? I'm going to give up my peas and lima beans. I'm willing to give those up. But fasting is about calling attention to, so while the physical body is going without food and water during the day, it's about focusing more on our spiritual needs. So focusing on patience and focusing on humility and focusing on our spiritual journey. It's about cleansing. It's not, and we know the physical benefits of fasting. I know people that a day or two a month, they will go on a fast just to cleanse the body. So that's absolutely part of the practice, is cleansing the body, but it's also about cleansing the soul. And so while I understand the idea of breaking chains, because if you fast on something, if you stop participating in something, whether it's just a regular food and water, or how many of us have taken a social media fast, right? Or sugar, so what? News. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we stop. What happens is it redirects our attention, right? It sort of gives us a little cleansing. It clears out the cobwebs. And fasting, and especially the month of Ramadan, is specifically about that. It's to draw our attention to maybe where our attention should be, or ought to be, or could be. Not should in a guilting kind of sense. That's never my goal. But to draw our attention to maybe those that don't have water. We take water for granted. You walk into your house, you turn a faucet, and clean water comes out. Clean water you can drink, mostly. There's a few, not maybe in Flint, Michigan. There's a few places where you don't, but there's still water accessible to you. Right? We open the refrigerator, and for most of us, there's something in there that we can eat if we're hungry. And then if there isn't, we close the door and wait a minute, open the door. Right? To see if it's changed? Yeah. So we close the door, open the door, still hasn't changed. But it's something that's just readily there, which doesn't draw our attention to maybe someone who doesn't. There are children on Fridays who stockpile snacks that they're given at school to take home because they know they won't have a meal over the weekend until they get back to school Monday morning. In our own backyard. I'm not talking about another country. I'm talking about right here in our own backyard. So fasting is in large part to draw our attention to kind of outside of ourselves. I don't know about you, but I can get a little self-absorbed sometimes, right? My whole morning was, what's happening to me? It was like one thing. At one point, I'm like, okay, what's up with the planets, the universe, somebody's against me. I know it. You can't have all these things, but it became about me. Redirect my attention. And so one of the things I've discovered about Ramadan and being involved with my Muslim brothers and sisters during this month of Ramadan is how fasting really refocuses me, and that there's a lane for it. There's a place for it. And I say there's a lane for it because when I practice fasting, it actually helps me. Somebody said, did somebody say clarity? Yeah. There's one of the huge benefits of fasting, and it doesn't matter if you're fasting from the news, social media, chocolate, food and water in general, you do gain, this like lightning bug effect that we're kind of living does do this. You do gain some clarity and you do gain focus, even if it's not your goal when you set out. So a practice for me is, am I living in the fasting lane? Now, I have to say that on the highway, in case you didn't know this, the left lane is for going fast. Okay? If you're a left lane loper, and you like to sit in the left lane and, just sort of tarry forward, move to the right lane, please. But that was kind of where I got the title from, the fasting lane, because what I realize in this practice of fasting, and it doesn't matter what I'm fasting, what I'm choosing not to engage with, it does kind of make you go faster in the sense that you have an accelerated clarity, you have an accelerated focus. You're like, oh, that's what my faith is about. Oh, that's what my purpose is about. Oh, that's why I'm here. Oh, I didn't know that person didn't have something to eat over the weekend. Oh, I didn't know, you just start to notice outside of you what's needed, by whom, when, and where. So it's less about, a byproduct certainly is that breaking of chains thing, where you wind up, you actually will discover, like if you ever do a fast, it's uncomfortable, right, at first until you kind of get used to it. Like if you've ever done sugar or the news, you're like, but I got to watch the news. No, but I'm not going to, but I want to watch the news. I got to know what's going on. And you do this like back and forth thing. It takes a little bit, and then you're like, I'm okay without the news, right? That little bit of hook. So it is that element of sort of breaking the chains, but that's not the focus. That's not the purpose. The purpose really is about our spiritual growth. The focus is really about our going outside of ourselves to what's here, to what's needed, to where is it that I need to offer forgiveness? Sometimes I think we hurt people unintentionally, really. When we're not being our shiniest self. So when I'm fasting, sort of the things that have been hiding out in the closets and in the little dark corners of my life come surfacing, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I probably need to offer some forgiveness over here. I didn't even see that they were having a difficult time when they were acting not in a way that I was enjoying, right? And so maybe I can open myself up a little bit more. Maybe I can be a little bit more of the Christ that we talk about, that we teach in Unity. Am I living in the fasting lane? Am I living in the lane that provides me the opportunity to be more focused, to be more clear, to be more present to those around me, to be more present to those who need something? One of the, in the Islamic faith, part of what happens during Ramadan and the fasting, by fasting every day, is you start to recognize how needy you are. And I know how much we love the word needy. Not. Right? We have a culture, there you go. We have a culture that says it's not okay to be needy. Right? Don't be needy, which is another word, don't ask for help. Right? It's sort of a synonym. Please be needy. And by needy, I mean, I can't do this life alone. I need you. You need me, whether you like it or not. Whether you enjoy me or not, you need me, because collectively we create this world that we're in. I remember the very first time I heard someone talk about Ramadan, an imam, in the context of, in our fasting journey, that we realize that we're needy and we need help, and we ask God for support, and it started going down a little more into the theology. But when I heard the word needy, inside I went, oh, no. There's no neediness in my world. I worked dang hard to get to where I am, to be self-reliant and blah, blah, blah. And I realized that in my zealousness to be self-reliant, which is good, right? We don't want to be dependent forever on everything from everybody. But in my joy, in my desire to grow and to be self-reliant and to be independent, I lost the interdependent piece. I had dependent or independent. What I lost was being interdependent, which means that sometimes I need you. And sometimes I don't always realize it. And I don't want to ask for help because I have a story that says, bless you, I have a story that says if I ask for help, then I'm lacking something. Yes, that's why you ask for help. Something's missing. Something's lacking, either physically or my awareness is not attached to it. I'm lacking in the sense, of course, theologically and philosophically, I have all that I need within me. I don't know about you, I'm not always aware of that. I don't always tap into it. So sometimes I need, desire, want, support, help me out. And what fasting does is help me get focused that maybe where those spots are that I need to. It's the whole point of spiritual community. We don't come here to be individual little silos sitting in rows. We come here together. That is the point of spiritual community because we need each other. We belong to each other, whether I like it or not. I have I think I talked about this last time I was here. I have a friend who's in prison. She shot a cop. I've known her for a long time. I'm a recovering addict. I have 29 years clean. She had over 20 years clean. And thank you. And thanks. I didn't do it alone. I needed other people to do that. But her 4 or 5 years ago, life started to really just spiral. Long story is she was back using. She wasn't on her meds for her depression and other things. And Easter Sunday, she got pulled over, and I don't even know the details, but she wound up shooting a state trooper. He's fine. She's in prison. I don't know that she'll see the light of day. But I'm like, how do you do that? How do you get from here to here? I got a letter from her the other day, so I've been able to talk to her periodically, and I've gotten a few letters, and her last letter was a long list of all the things I could mail her to keep her mind going and to give her something to do. I don't know that she's ever going to see the light of day again. But right near the beginning of her letter, she said, I'm not sure I can do this without emotion, but she wrote this sentence, this question that said, how can I ask you to do prison time with me? And I went, oh. I didn't even read the rest of the letter. Later I did. How can I ask you to do prison time with me? And I thought, you just did. The minute that you walked into my life 25 years ago, you did. Whether you know it or not, whether you realize it or not. The minute that you walked into this door and met someone new, you were unintentionally, unconsciously saying, yes, I will do time with you. Huge awakening, huge realization. So every day, so now Ramadan this year has gotten even bigger for Kelly. Am I living in the fasting lane? What am I focusing on, right? Whether I'm fasting from food, I'm fasting from, it's all about me, I'm fasting from news, I'm fasting from whatever detracts me to the idea, how do I do time with you? How do I even recognize and admit I'm doing time with you? We're humans on this planet, right? We weren't plopped down from somewhere else. We grew up out of it, just like every other life form on it. Which means that I'm here with you. I may not always like you. I may run and hide so you can't see I can see you, right? I may not want to return your voicemail. I may not want to call you. I may not want to be in conversation. I may be in conversation and realize that I'm hearing a story that you have about somebody done you wrong, and I'm hearing it for the 1800th time, and I really don't want to hear it again. Put on your big girl panties, suck it up, I don't know, go shopping, something. I don't want to hear it again. Like, I can feel all that inside of me. And then I remember, I'm doing time with you. That you are because I am. That your life matters because my life matters. That the world that you have outside in here and outside these walls is dependent on me, on what I do, on what I think. So am I living in the fasting lane? Am I willing to periodically take up a practice of literally physically fasting, stopping food and water as you're able to, as your health provides? It doesn't have to be 30 days. It could be for a day. It could be for a couple days. And when you notice the twang of hunger or thirst, redirect yourself. Redirect yourself to someone that doesn't have that, to someone that, for whatever reason, I got it. She's in prison. She shot a cop. You pay a price. I don't have, that is what is, right? But how am I going to do time with people? Fasting allows me to be focused. Fasting allows me to have clarity. Fasting allows me to open up to someone else's struggle and be present to it, believe it or not. It sounds a little counterintuitive. Wait, if I'm hungry and thirsty, I might be a little bit grumpy, but it's going to allow me to be open and present to your challenge? Yes. Ironically, that's how it works. Am I living in the fasting lane? Rilke, the poet, said in his book Letters to a Young Poet, when he was talking about the idea of spiritual fasting, which includes physical fasting, he said the reason for it is to live the questions. To live the questions. To live the questions. So what are the questions? Well, one of them for me is, am I living in the fasting lane? Meaning, am I living in the lane? Am I living on purpose? Am I living in the place? Am I driving my car down the road that I want to be? That includes recognizing that I'm here because you're here. You're here because I'm here. That we're responsible to each other, right? I'm not responsible for everything in your life. We have, again, a culture that goes overboard into codependence and you know, that neediness thing. No, I'm here because you're here. So, if you would like to take on the practice of living in the fasting lane, the practice of fasting, I strongly encourage you to. I strongly encourage you to. And notice when you feel hungry, when you feel thirsty, to just pause and think about someone who maybe doesn't have that, and to redirect your attention. Just redirect your attention to what it is that you do have. To redirect your attention to what is a blessing, to redirect your attention to what does my faith tell me about this life, this human journey? What does my faith tell me about the practice of going without something? What does my faith tell me about the practice of living with other humans? What does my faith tell me about the practice of what's in my consciousness that I create out here? That's the living the questions that Rilke talks about. There's a lot of questions. And then when you're done with your fast of the day and you get to a meal and you see the meal in front of you on the table, before you eat it, notice that meal didn't come to you all by yourself. That every item that's on that table, on your plate, whatever's in front of you, there were multiple hands at work to bring it to you. You're not doing this alone. You needed those other people to have that meal in front of you. So you pause for a moment. You pause and just acknowledge that. Traditionally, for Muslims, at the end of the day, the fast-breaking meal at an evening is called an iftar, I-F-T-A-R. I think you guys had one here a couple years ago. And I'm involved in doing multiple ones in Kansas City area. If you want to venture out to Unity Village on Thursday night, May 31st, we're doing one there, just RSVP me. That was a shameless self-promotion. But when you get to the end of your fast and you look at the meal or the food or the drink or whatever's in front of you, pause for a moment and take a notice of how it came to be in front of you. You needed the other hands at work. You needed the power of Mother Earth. You needed the attention, the intention, the resources of people, of money, right? Of whatever to bring it to you. And one other thing I would suggest is get some dates, if you like dates. Dates were the Prophet Muhammad's favorite food. They're also traditionally the food that you eat to break the fast. And the reason you do is, one, it's very gentle on the system. So if you have gone a day or two or something, and it's been particularly strenuous, and you can kind of feel your body feeling the fasting, have a date. There's the nutritional value, and the gentleness of it is a good place to start. The other reason is that a date is sweet. A date is sweet. You put a date into your mouth and you can taste the sweetness that is life. You can taste the sweetness of what it means to live in the fasting lane. The sweetness of living with clarity of purpose. The sweetness of living with the idea that I'm doing time with you, and thank God I don't have to do this alone. I'm living in the sweetness that I can call on you when I need help. That I can call on you when I need someone to pray. I can call on you and go, woohoo, the household. I don't know about you, but it's much more fun to celebrate with others than all by myself. My cat just looks at me. He doesn't clap, he doesn't do anything, right? So it's a powerful, to something small, but a date. If you don't like dates, then maybe a grape, right? But just to remind us of the sweetness of what it means to live in the fasting lane, right? Fasting is a spiritual practice from most every faith tradition. So I certainly, absolutely encourage us to take it on as a spiritual practice in whatever way for you. Remember, it's how you do it. It's your world, it's your life, it's your practice. But ask yourself, am I living in the fasting lane? Which means, am I living what is my purpose? Am I living my faith? Am I living like you matter? Meaning someone else. You with me? Deal? Yeah. Don't worry, I won't hold you to it. I might. So let's take that idea into meditation. No? We have a song? Okay, well, let's take that idea. Hold that idea. Am I living in the fasting? You can come on up. Come on. Living in the fasting lane. Living in the idea that we need each other, that we belong to each other. Hold that through the music, and then when we move into meditation.